Hello everyone! Welcome to another tutorial. Yay! Hope that you're doing well in this very weird time of the coronavirus. Hope you're staying safe and inside your homes, and keep being happy and use the time to focus on yourself and spread some creativity and enjoy the time off with some good movies and stuff. And now back to the tutorial. In this tutorial I will explain how I colored the next Green Lantern piece. I've started the piece with some watercolors, mostly some of the Winsor Newton tubes. I've also used Winsor Newton Gouache, and I also used Carandache Watercolor Pencils. And I'm going to include a description of all the materials that I've used, so don't worry if you missed the names of it or if you didn't understand it because of my funny accent. Alright, so here are all the descriptions of the materials that I used to color this piece. And right after the descriptions, to the tutorial. Yay! I'm using a very small amount of water and a lot of amount of paint, and I'm working with layers. Going over on the shadow parts first. After the layers get dry a little bit, then I go over them and unify them with another layer on top of it. You can add as many layers as you wish. When you add more layers, it gives more depth and another sense of 3D feeling to the piece. I'm using a dense mix of paint where the shadow parts are, using more paint and less water for the darker parts, and more water and less paint for the large areas. To avoid the watercolor marks, I work really quickly. So I choose a specific section, go over it with water, and then unify the entire section as quickly as I can before it gets dry. I'm using a photo reference for this piece, both for the pose and both for the lighting. For the lighting, I took a small figurine and put it under the light source, according to what I had in mind. I'm starting to color the figure first, using watercolors. I prefer planning ahead, so having reference is a very helpful thing. So whenever you can, use reference, because this way you can learn from it and get better each time. For the background, I also use some reference pictures. I googled up some pictures of galaxy, explosions, some movie reference scenes. And also, I really love putting some artworks of my favorite artists while I'm painting, also to learn from it and to get inspired from it. I'm using a hair dryer to dry the parts that I already colored because I want to move faster, and also to avoid smudging the paint. The second layers on the watercolors are gouache. Gouache has a very dense texture to it, so it makes the paint look very smooth. I apply the gouache very quickly so it can blend very nicely and have a smooth texture to it. I don't like to see the brush strokes, and whenever I do, I try to smoothen them out. I'm using the gouache also over the background. I want to unify all the details together, and I also want to add depth to it. I'm working back and forth on the piece, sometimes on the figure, sometimes on the background. This way it helps me to keep a fresh eye for details. Sometimes when you focus on one area for too long, then your eyes get tired. This way, if you move over the piece, it helps you to freshen it up a little bit. I'm still using gouache, adding more depth, working slowly in layers. With gouache, it's a little bit like watercolors. For small areas, I don't use a lot of water, and for large areas, I use more water so I can blend the entire surface together. Gouache is more opaque than watercolors, but I don't use a lot of paint because I still want to see through the details that I added before. This way it creates sort of a 3D feeling. For the highlights and the glowing parts, I'm using titanium white acrylic. Titanium white is very opaque. It's the brightest white, and therefore it seems like it's almost glowing. I like the contrast it creates. I'm using some white acrylic on the background as well, and also doing some splattering for effects. I recommend for splattering to use a small piece of paper to hide the areas that you don't want to get splattered. If you have enough control on the brush, and that's something else, so feel free to do whatever you want, it's only a recommendation. Moving on to the final layer of watercolor pencils. I prefer using watercolor colored pencils, specifically with mixed media, just because they blend very smoothly on top of other surfaces. I also use sometimes oil-based colored pencils when I want to create certain textures. Also using a white gel pen for small details. It's easier sometimes to control the gel pen rather than the brush, so specifically for small details it is very helpful to use it. And that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about it. And until next time, stay safe. Wish you all to be healthy and stay indoors for this very weird time. And I'm gonna try and upload more videos very soon. So see you next time.